On my other channel, I've recently reached a point where I honestly am a little tired of a lot of the things that I've been doing, and I decided to take a break and do some reading. The first thing I picked up is Machiavelli. I actually was talking to someone else about this, and it was just convenient. I know many people have not studied it and don't know much about it. I have written quite extensively about it on my website, and I think that it's safe to say I have a pretty good idea who, what, when, where, why, how Machiavelli. I'm going to be going through that story as well as some other stories and seeing if we can't make something work here, something I like the idea of doing and something I think that could be quite powerful. Namely, helping people be able to understand things that are going on that isn't necessarily intuitive or obvious to the average reader. Analyzing the story isn't exciting or fun, and honestly, I don't think this will trend very well with the YouTube algorithm. So if you listen to this video, please consider throwing it a like, a subscription, anything, because I really do actually love this. I have a huge passion for it. My analysis, my conversation, my discussion about the Count of Monte Cristo is probably one of my favorites. I'm not going to start with that one because, honestly, I'm really good at describing it in a way that helps the reader understand what's going on. If you're a student studying in school, I'd complain, but honestly, I'm not going to give you all the answers, so this would be a good thing to consider listening to and figuring out what you want to do. I'd be surprised if a high school student is studying Machiavelli. So if you are, congratulations. It's a good book to read. It's going to be hard. I hope you can handle it. Me personally, the first thing I ever studied was the Bible. I don't actually mean that in a religious way. I mean it in a quite literal, I studied it sort of way. Someone came along and gave me a book on advanced theology. And again, that makes it sound religious, but it really is more research-oriented. And I fell in love with analyzing and thinking about things, and yeah, and I grew up, and I got even worse. Okay, we're not going to be doing the Bible, but I do mention it for one reason. If you've ever studied it in large quantity, it is incredibly sophisticated, it is incredibly complicated, and it is the most dense piece of information I have ever encountered. I am not trying to promote a single worldview there. Yes. I've studied other religions. I've studied them extensively, and I don't have any criticisms. I also don't see some of the power and depth I see in the Bible. Yeah, don't go out and start waving pitchforks, guys. I'm just trying to establish something because, honestly, I think that some of the older English translations, like the King James Version, most people have never read. And honestly, if you sit down and read it and you just go, hey, I don't understand anything, you really should be able to. There is nothing that difficult in that book, and understanding a lot of what they did in that book will actually improve your ability to read. I know the Quran is, I'm probably saying that wrong. If it bothers you, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to say it wrong. But I know that its English translation is not as classical as I would be looking for. And I think that's an acceptable statement right there. Help distinguish between what I'm trying to get at and what I'm wanting. So anyway, we will be doing Machiavelli, at least a little. I would love to do a lot, but I mean, if this gets absolutely awful results and I get tired and I move on to something else, I get tired and move on to something else. I'm not promising the moon here, guys. But I mean, if even a couple people are just like, oh, hey, I'm interested, great, awesome, join in. I would love a discussion. I would love a conversation. This is actually what I want more than anything else. Anyway, yeah. after Machiavelli, if I could get a huge enough base, I would love to do the Count of Monte Cristo. It is my personal best. I have taught a lot on the Count of Monte Cristo. It is a fantastic piece, both as literature and as like a study of history and culture and a lot of the things that go into creating the society that we live in today. This applies to everyone anywhere on the planet. I don't really care where you are, because honestly, the imperialism of Europe shaped the planet. We're not discussing whether it was a good thing, a bad thing. Yes, I am just saying it shaped everything because they affected almost everything. I saw a funny joke about how England, there's only 35 countries England didn't invade. And my question was, did they actually not invade those countries, or did they invade those countries, but at the time, those countries were part of other countries, and so technically they didn't ever step foot with soldiers in that region, but they had invaded the country and taken over the country, and as an extension, they just never had to actually go to wherever remote location this is. And I think that's actually a pretty valid statement. But anyway, Machiavelli, like the Count of Monte Cristo, actually has a lot of depth, a lot of substance. And I think that if you just glaze over it and you don't actually look at it in any serious level, you're going to miss a lot. If you want to hear me read it, I actually will be doing that on my other channel. That should be coming live around the exact same time as this video. And so there should be a link in the description. I cannot promise that because, you know, something might come up and mess it all up, at which point, well, this isn't true. Anyway, it should be happening. Machiavelli is a great, great piece, and I think there's a lot of value to going through it. And we'll be doing that in another video. This is just mostly me saying, hey, I really would love some feedback. If you guys have points where you want me to talk about something specifically, I would love to have like people to talk off of, work off of. His work is easily one of the most poorly represented works in the world. And if you really actually look at a lot of what he said from a modern perspective, you're just going to be like, dude, this is the least controversial thing I have ever read. A few parts are a little bit scandalous, I suppose. But if you've ever played a video game where you're taking over the world, you've probably virtually done pretty much exactly what this guy has suggested you would do. We don't necessarily need to like it. We don't necessarily need to have a positive emotion about it or a negative emotion about it. The facts are the facts. And the facts is he's pretty darn accurate on what goes into his story. Anyway, like I said, I was planning on reading it on another channel because that's actually the function of that channel, is me reading stuff, reviewing stuff, talking about things. And then I realized, you know what, I could go ahead and hop onto this channel and add some more like, you know, thoughtful, meaningful content to support that and hopefully make the experience a little more enjoyable for everyone. Anyway, you guys have a good one.